How did a roundabout end up costing 5 times its original estimate? When and why did these cost increases occur? Were councillors kept in the loop of these escalating costs? This is the saga of the cost mismanagement of the Fendon Road roundabout, and as we'll see, it's a story of intrigue and deception. The earliest estimate for Fendon Road roundabout was given to the press in late 2016. Cambridge News reported that it would cost around £450,000. By March 2018, this figure had risen to £800,000, and the council applied for £550,000 of funding from central government. At the end of 2018, councils were informed that the roundabout would have an overall lifetime project budget of £800,000 and that construction would start early in 2019. In the event, the start of construction was delayed until September 2019, when the press release announcing this again used the £800,000 figure. However, behind the scenes there was a problem. Project officers had known by the detailed design phase in 2018 that £800,000 was not going to be sufficient. Vanessa Kelly is a project officer for Cambridgeshire County Council.
It became obvious that budget would not be sufficient. It did then sort of up to about 1.4. That was at the detailed design stage.
We now know that by the time construction had started, that figure had risen to 1.53 million. Adding to the difficulties were problems with the utilities. Despite the construction start date being delayed until September 2019, the project team had not obtained the C4 detailed estimates from the utility companies to make the necessary underground diversions. Vanessa Kelly explains this further impact on the budget.
We did go into that construction period not having the C4s and not having as much knowledge of what we'd be facing when we dug the road up as we would ideally have liked. And it was the extent of the utility works and the delays that meant for the programme, the budget, which I mentioned.
This had the effect of increasing the budget to over £1.8 million. So by February 2020, there was a huge gulf between the publicly acknowledged cost and the actual cost. Officers had acknowledged the increase from £450,000 to £800,000, but not the ballooning to £1.5 million before construction began, or the further increase to £1.8 million during the construction period. How could officers now reveal the embarrassing extra £1 million cost? First, a number of articles appeared in the media quoting council officers blaming the £1 million increase on the extra utility works during construction. This was backed up by the local county councillor Amanda Taylor, who tweeted that the £1 million rise was mainly electrical and phone cables under the roundabout which had to be relocated. Councillor Taylor also sat on the council committee overseeing the project. In March 2020, there was a meeting of Cambridge's South Area Committee which was attended by city and county councillors and members of the public. Vanessa Kelly attended with Dorothy Higginson, a manager at the County Council, who gave an update on the roundabout.
Thank you. The figure of 800,000 was provided. We've since found out all of the difficulties that have appeared in terms of all of the utilities. That's added a significant cost. And it was unplanned, it was unknown about.
No other explanation was given for the cost increase from £800,000, despite some robust questioning by councillors. Clearly this was a convenient narrative for council officers, as the overrun was blamed on utility companies rather than the council. At this stage, it's important to remember that the public had no idea of how the cost increases were composed. Some more information was released in July 2020, and this conflicted with the earlier information provided in March. According to these new data, the additional works during construction, including utilities, up until March 2020, cost only £266,000. It also revealed that the bulk of the cost increases had occurred much earlier, as we've seen, and therefore had nothing to do with the utility discoveries made after construction began, about which council officers admit they should have known more. Officers now said that £2.1 million had been spent and it would cost £2.36 million to finish the project, more than 5 times the original estimate of £450,000. The Service Director for Highways and Transport, Graham Hughes, confirms that costs were not updated and published from the £800,000 figure until early 2020, and that consequently councillors were not asked to approve the escalation. Vanessa Kelly again.
We would have had to go back to get approval for that increased budget, but we just thought we've got to build this thing and just get on with it.
Graham Hughes and Vanessa Kelly acknowledged that approval should have been sought for the increased budget, but instead councillors and the public were deliberately kept in the dark about the dramatic increase in costs from 2018 until 2020. Councillors cannot perform their role effectively if they do not have accurate information provided to them by council officers. It's up to elected councillors to determine how public funds should be spent. It's not up to officers to push through their pet projects on the basis of incomplete cost information. Steps must now be put in place to ensure that deliberate misleading of the public and councillors by officers cannot be repeated, and the policy to achieve this must be published.